Brilliant. Well, Ian, thanks for taking some time out your busy schedule to speak to me, and we're lovely just to get some nuggets from you. So, if you could just start off by just telling us a little about yourself and how did the company start?
Yeah, so my name's Ian Forrester. I'm founder and CEO of DAIVID. We're a creative effectiveness business, so we're analyzing creative using AI at huge scale, understanding is it capturing attention, which emotions will it evoke, will people remember the brand? And the genesis of DAIVID was the work I did at a company called Unruly. So I joined Unruly in 2012 and they hired me from industry, from client side. So prior to that, I'd been on the grad scheme at L'Oreal and I worked at Nestle and Sony Pictures. And I ended up joining this little startup, Unruly. They had about 80 people when I joined. And they had a really interesting data set because they were ranking videos based on the number of shares that they achieved online. And clients, brands were coming to them saying, why is my competitor at the top of this list? Like, how do I get to the top of that list? How do I make a shareable, like a viral video, basically? And they hired me to answer that question. And I worked with a bunch of the guys there, and we worked with Professor Karen Nelson Field, then of Ehrenberg Bass, to test a bunch of hypotheses. But essentially, we found that the key driver of sharing is emotions. So when you evoke an intense positive emotion, or indeed negative, that can drive sharing as well. Um, then you are likely to have a shareable video. There are other factors as well, but broadly speaking, that emotions were the most important. Um, and so we found that that was really impactful in the industry in like 2012, 2013, 2014. Clients stopped caring about, so much about viral videos and having a viral hit. They started caring about other metrics, but that was cool because we found that emotions are really strongly correlated, not just with sharing, but with
Hmm.
any outcome that the brand wants. So we pivoted a little bit, started focusing on emotions, created an emotional testing tool called EQ, where we were showing creative to people and mapping their responses, so producing reports. And that was great. I had an amazing time, built a global team there. I was there for like 6.5 years. Um, and essentially the work that I'm doing at DAIVID is taking all that work we did at Unruly over the years to the next level, using AI to automate processes and um, being able to deliver that emotion data as well as attention and memory to our clients at huge scale, like without needing to show creative to people. And that's what's unlocking the next level.
Brilliant. And what's a typical, if there is such a thing as a typical client, what sort of clients are you working with?
Lots of clients from around the industry, the advertising industry. So brands direct, obviously there's a use for those guys. Um, we were the likes of Nike, Heineken, Mars, like big advertisers. And the issue that these guys are facing is that there's just so much creative being made these days. Like it's no longer just about your TV ad, stick it on TV, stick a bunch of money behind it, and then you're done. All of these guys are producing tons of creative, which is going out across social. They're doing influencer campaigns, producing loads and loads of content. They're having to advertise on lots of different platforms. So you've got TikTok and Snapchat, connected TV and retail media, and all these new ways to reach people have popped up out of the woodwork. And so for those guys, just understanding if their creative is working or not and why, so they can form their strategy is really, really powerful. But we're also working with agencies, so a number of creative agencies, the likes of Iris, Distillery, influencer agencies as well, Billion Dollar Boy, The Fifth. All of these guys again are producing lots of creative, and they want to move away from like standard metrics, which they're getting back from platforms like your engagement rates and your view-through rates, which are they're okay. They tell you something, but they don't get to the heart of why something's working or not. So working with those guys and also now onboarding a bunch of data as a service partners who are not really using our data to assess creative. They're using our data to augment what they're doing. So our creative data can be really powerful um, to feed into the system where anyone in the advertising ecosystem is dealing with lots and lots of creative. They're generating lots of data, but again, that the data they're generating isn't attention, emotion, and memory. So when you add those data points into their system, whatever they're doing, they can improve. So there's players in the attention space, for example, that are like, um, their whole business model is about predicting the attention that media placements will deliver. But up until now, they haven't taken into account the creative itself within that mix. But when you add creative data in there and merge it with their own data, their own media data, then their predictions can be more powerful, they're more accurate.
Mm.
That's one example. So there's, yeah, lots of applications.
And would you say that's what makes you unique, that the power of the data that you're giving your clients?
Totally. It's the depth of the data, but when delivered at scale. So it's like, you can use like a facial coding technique, or there are other players in the industry that will tell you how emotive a piece of creative is, but they're not doing that at scale. And so it's useful for like hero content for TV ads, but they'll charge you 3 or 4 grand for the privilege. And it's great. It's great data. Don't get me wrong. And it's actually a lot of what our AI is built upon is that it's showing creative to people. So you need to
Hmm.
have that human training data to power the AI. But that's where those techniques fall down, is that it's slow and it's expensive. So it can't be scaled. So what we've done is we've taken that human data and we've scaled it. And that's
Brilliant.
what's really interesting.
Excellent. So, as a CEO, obviously, there's lots of different challenges because we often see the exciting part of businesses, which is the product or the service that's provided, but the day-to-day running. What just wondered, what sort of lessons have you learned being a CEO?
It's many. I mean, I didn't realize quite how stressful it would be, I think, when going into it. Like I'd always I've worked client side, so for brands, and then I worked in agencies for like 10 years. So I did Unruly, then I headed up the insight team at Whaler for 3 years after that before I went full time on DAIVID. And I went full time, like I wanted the challenge. Like I'm very much thrive in a growth environment, like that kind of not necessarily knowing what you're doing and figuring it out. Like that's what I really liked about the agency environment, because I started joined these little startups, and we kind of figured stuff out. We didn't know what made a video go viral, but we figured it out. And that's what really attracted me, that growth opportunity. But yeah, I hadn't quite um fully grasped like just how stressful it would be. Like you have massive highs, but you also have major lows as well. Like if something doesn't go your way, and we applied for a grant a few years ago, for example, and I put probably 2 months worth of work into it, and for a fairly spurious reason, in my view, like we didn't get it. And it's just like, you really feel those
Yeah,
lows. Um, so yeah, you learn a lot. Like I've had to learn a lot about finance, commercial. Like I was an insight
yeah,
research guy, doing customer presentations and presenting at conferences, but having to manage the P&L and be responsible for payroll, managing cash flow, all these things were new to me. And so, you just have to pick it up.
yeah. It's got to learn it. Do you have a daily routine, or is it completely random each day?
No, I do. I mean, well, I do. I do certain things every day which I know nourish me, like before the day starts. So like I'm up super early, like I'm up at 4:45, and
Wow.
I feed the dogs and take that to the loo, and then I'll go to the gym. I'll be in the gym for like an hour and a half, and I'll come back. Oh, well, actually, before getting out of bed, I tend to meditate for about half an hour. Um, so yeah, that's missed that bit out. So meditate, dogs, gym, and then get back and get to my desk and do a bit of journaling around like the day, um, and some kind of like some note, just sort of like a brain dump of what I want to do, and then I arrange my day, arrange my calendar, um, and task list, and then away I go. But then, I feel that when I do that most of the time, to be fair. Um, Unless I have some crisis with the kids, or like because I've got two little girls as well. Like one's 9 months, and the other one's nearly 3. So yeah, it's full on. So that the stuff which is unexpected always happens.
Yeah.
I feel like if I'm centered myself by setting the day up in the right way, And I've sorted myself, and I'm in a good frame of mind. So anything that comes up, I can deal with. And then the day to day is yeah, super different. Like sometimes I'm traveling and meeting clients, presenting at conferences, but then also managing the insight team at the moment. So making sure that they're on task and they're delivering what they need to. And we're also looking for investment right now. So that's
Mm,
yeah, probably 90% of my time is trying to get intros to investors and having investor calls. And again, it's totally like that's 100% like a not. I was around investment chat at Unruly and Whaler, but it wasn't on my shoulders. So having to
yeah,
like, really take the bull by the horns and run with it and try and get this investment over the line is like a major learning for me.
I can imagine. Yeah, and that daily routine sounds good. I mean, it's an early start, but it depends when you go to bed, I suppose. Everything's relative.
That's
But
it.
great
I'm bed by
start.
nine.
Meditation, gym, pretty cool.
Yeah. No, I mean, I did a lot of work on myself over lockdown. Like, um, I was pretty stressed before lockdown. I was drinking too much and like just drinking for no reason in the evening. I mean, nothing crazy, like, 2 or 3 beers, but just got to the end of 2019. I was like, you know what? I just need to sort this out. Like, this is not good. It's only going one way. So even before lockdown in 2020, I said to myself, "Oh, I'm going to take a break from booze." And I did 1 year. The organization is called 1 Year No Beer. Um, but you can do set. There are different called like lengths of challenge you can do. And I signed up for 3 months to start with, but then I extended it to 6 months. And that in that period, it was just really wholesome. It was like I was at home. We didn't have the babies at the time, so I just had 2 dogs. So I was walking the dogs all the time in the park, walking loads, going to the gym loads, reading loads, and I just like ingested all this like really useful information and just had a total reset. And I've just taken those healthy habits forward, and I just find it makes such a huge difference to everything, like how I show up with the kids, at work, on calls. It just makes a massive difference.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. That message is such a big message. I don't know how much I can emphasize that message to other people in business. If you start the day bad and have a bad evening as well, so you're drinking in the evening, then you start in the morning or a bit all confused, sort of all over the place, then it sets a bad patterns. And as you said, busy people, if you're not looking after yourself, then you're going to get some issues as well. And we know people who've had heart attacks and car crashes and stuff
Mm,
like that. So it's definitely it's not just a good to do, but actually good for business. So
100%.
when you think of success, does any particular people come to mind?
Oh, good question. Yeah, so my the ex-founder of Unruly, Sarah Wood, who I reported into for this part 5 years at Unruly. She did an amazing job. She was just a very inspirational person. Um, Incredible energy, just super positive. And they built that business from absolutely nothing and sold to Rupert Murdoch to News Corp for 170 million USD.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, she was an incredible person. I learned so much from her. Also, like, I love Roger Federer. I absolutely
Oh,
love
cool.
Roger Federer. Um,
Great tennis player.
like tennis. Yeah, but there's just something about Roger who's got so much class. And he was like, he had quite a tumultuous personality when he was younger. People don't realize, but when he was like 18, 19, he used to smash his racket and
Really? That's not
yeah,
me. You
yeah.
never imagined it with him.
I know, but he sorted it out. He's just like, this is not going to get me where I want to be. And he totally calmed himself down, took control of his emotions. And he's just absolute joy. Like, he's just the most naturally gifted. Like, but his mentality is what I really respect.
Yeah, he
That's,
made he
yeah.
made tennis look very silky, light, simple.
Yeah. Tennis is a mind game, man. Like it's difficult. Like, it's you versus your opponent. There's no team to hide behind. Um, and every point you reset the pieces, you go again. And you see so many tennis players that just get in their heads. Like Andy Murray was kind of like this for a lot of his career, but then he kind of sorted it out towards the end and obviously won Wimbledon and the US Open and stuff. And, so when he was, because he
Yeah,
had quality, but he just used to get in his head and you
absolutely.
lose
Yeah, you can
four or
almost
five
see it
points in a
happening
row.
on the court.
Yeah, man.
I can watch tennis players and I can almost see them because I'm a big tennis fan as well. Used to
Mm,
play a bit of tennis, and you can almost see them lose it mentally. And then you
mm,
get the other side, as you said, the Federers, the Nadals, and Djokovic, of course, where you can see almost just he just switches a button in his head, and he just transforms his play. And you think it's the same
100%.
player, but something's changed somewhere,
Yeah,
and he
amazing.
just transforms it. Amount of times I've seen him 2 sets down, and I'm thinking he's finished, and then suddenly he just turns it, switches a switch in his head, and he just goes into
Absolutely.
this drive.
Yeah, and like Djokovic and Nadal are both very similar, like that mentality. Absolutely amazing. You look at someone like Nick Kyrgios, and you're just like, no, he's
He's a
just
pre-Federer, like a pre-Federer behaviors.
yeah. I mean, he's a he's so talented, but just sort yourself out, mate. That's really irritates me.
Yeah,
So much
he keeps
talent
losing it.
wasted.
Yeah, it is what that's what everybody says about him. Yeah, because he's
Mm.
losing it, and actually it's affecting his game. It's not working for him. It's not like he's winning loads of Grand Slams. So, um, yeah, it's a shame is when you see that. So,
Totally.
in terms of the next 5 years, then, the aspirations for the company. Obviously, you said you're looking for investment. Is that a crucial part of the next 5 years growth?
Yeah, I mean, it we'll be growing without it, but it will help us move more quickly for sure. Um, yeah, so we want to expand into new countries. So every model that we build has its own training data set, right? Because you can't apply like a US model to Japanese creative, like it's not going to work. So we're active now in the US, UK, Australia, and Japan. Um, but we know there's tons of opportunity across Southeast Asia, like Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, um, Latin America as well, Argentina, Brazil, Mexico. And we need training data to build the models on top of. Up to this point, we've basically grown organically. So been running client projects and that's been paying for the training data. So that's how we've got to where we are. And we could do that, but it'll just allow us to go more quickly because we can generate the training data. We'll get more data scientists and engineers as well to be able to manage it and just go much more quickly with the product iterations that we've got on the roadmap. So it just means we can scale more quickly. And it means we can put boots on the ground in the US and Singapore as well. We know there's massive opportunity.
Huge opportunities. Yeah, interesting. How about being an employer? Is another aspect of running a business. Is I see you have a team of about 9 of you plus advisors. What have you learned being an employer? I mean, it's an interesting challenge with a new generation, work from home, and motivation. All these challenges. How do you find that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. The team do like to work from home and we're very flexible. We've got an office space, like a shared office space, just off Trafalgar Square, so very central. And some of the team will go in there quite often. Like I maybe go once a week, but then it depends on travel schedule. Which is something again we want to sort out with investment actually, because building a culture is a massive part of what I want to do with this business. And again,
Yeah.
I'm learning from the Unruly experience and really had an amazing culture. It was just a great place to be. Everyone was pulling in the same direction. It was a meritocracy. And anyone you speak to who worked at Unruly during those days just has such fond memories of it. And it was amazing. It was wonderful for the mental health of the employees of the team, but
Yeah.
it's also great for the business because it enabled us to hire these A players and they'd stick around for 5, 6, 7 years. That's not unusual. Like a 7 year tenure and really is not unusual, but it is for the industry where the average is like 2, 2.5.
Mm,
Um, so they have these massive business benefits. So really focusing on the culture, building that culture. I mean, we do we're a very social team, but it's not the same as being in an office. So part of the investment will be like getting our own office space and designing it and making sure we've got like the flamingo and all the birds that we lean into in terms of the brand, like just make it really look and feel David. Um, that'll be a big part of like the contribution that we make to the employees. Um, I'm quite lucky. Like a lot of the guys who work with us worked at Unruly, so I know them. I've known them for years, so we have like a deep understanding of how we work. But I do feel the pressure, like every month you've got to make payroll, and clients don't pay, and these global organizations are supposed to pay in like 60 days, and they take 120, and it's just like,
Yeah, tell me about it.
yeah, it's
Bigger the
annoying.
company, the more they seem to be used that size to take
Yeah,
their time. Yeah, when the rest of us are suffering, when's this money coming?
I
Cash flow
know.
is king, isn't it?
Yeah, it's irritating.
Yeah, and as you get bigger, payroll's only bigger. So actually, that
Yeah,
rhymes.
exactly. Exactly.
So, in terms of AI, then, will it's clearly a big part of what you do. Is that Do you think that will only just continue? It's just going to get more and more
And what, like in terms of us or
in
generally?
terms of the use of AI in your company and what it can do for you?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Like we are like 100% tech enabled now. Like we're not running.
Yeah,
That's not 100% true actually. It's very rare that we would run a survey for a client now. Like we take a piece of client content and run a survey on it and produce a report. We take the content and stick it through the model. That produces a bunch of data, which we then can add a report to if the client wants. So yeah, I mean, this is the future. Like, um, and it's what we're basing everything on. Um, because it's what's our differentiator is, right? It gives us that huge scale. It makes it super affordable. So yeah, I mean, we're all in on AI. I mean, and just generally, you see improvements in these large language models now. Um, it's not we're not that far off, if not artificial general intelligence, or like something approaching that around like AI, which is very good at doing a certain job. So, it can kind of potentially replace humans. And there are various views as to how quickly this is going to happen, but certainly within the next 10 years, there's going to be a
yeah,
huge,
yeah,
huge shift in what AI can do and what that means for human workforce.
yeah. It's a big
Really
question everybody's got in the back of their mind as where's this going?
Mm,
Fortunately, I'm a bit on the older side. Maybe by the time it happens, I won't be
be on a yacht.
working too many
Caribbean.
hours anyway.
Fair enough.
In fact, my our profession is going towards AI now. An
Mm,
action coach is working on AI models right now. It's fantastic stuff that I'm getting feedback on, which is going to be quite exciting, I think, even for people like me. So one of the things is we always say to people who watch these podcasts and things like that is we always ask, do you have any particular books or particular people you'd recommend they watch or listen to? Because now it's not just about reading now. People have all sorts of media now. But any particular book recommendations?
yeah, I mean, so I listen to audiobooks. That's my thing. Because I'm walking the dogs every day for like probably an hour, so it's just a really good time to consume content. I mean, generally, I would say in terms of podcasts, I would say Rich Roll. Um, he's an American guy, ex-lawyer, who probably like 10, 12 years ago, um, decided to quit the law and start his own podcast. And he was one of the original podcasters when podcasting was
Mm,
a thing.
Rich Roll.
Rich Roll, yeah, he's amazing. Like he's a very inspirational guy. He quit drinking as well. Like he had a bit of an alcohol problem and quit drinking and turned his life around. And he just gets really interesting people on his podcast, like thought leaders in every kind of space, like a lot of spiritual people, but also people like Seth Godin and
Mm.
business leaders, and so
Oh
very
yes.
varied. Talking about all different kinds of subjects, um, like medical experts as well. So people who are experts in the microbiome, and it's just like you just learn tons listening to him. Um, so yeah, I'd say Rich Roll. I mean, there's so many books. Oh, I've got back here, but I could.
There are lots behind you, yeah.
I mean, I think this is a great book. This is interesting. So, Positivity
Ah, yeah.
by Barbara Fredrickson. So Fredrickson found that she's part of the positive psychology movement. Um, and she did a bunch of work around um, understanding the impact of people feeling positive versus negative emotions in their lives, right? Um, because we're all walking around and we're being exposed to stimuli which either make us feel good or make us feel bad. And what she found is that you need a ratio of 3 to 1 in terms of positive versus negative in order to thrive. Because negative emotions, like from an evolutionary point of view, it's negative emotions are attached to things that are threatening, which might harm your survival. So you really latch onto them. Like when that's why the news is so popular. Like that's why all newspapers have like these like really foreboding headlines because they grab the attention. Like, oh, well, that's really bad. Because humans we're like you gravitate towards that. Like it captures your attention. So to counteract that, you need 3 times the amount of positive as a negative in your life. Um, this positivity ratio that she found. And
Interesting.
when you understand that, then you can take steps to regulate your own positivity ratio, right? Like I never watched the news, for example. I didn't before I reading that book actually, but I just don't find it uh, it's so sensationalist and negative. Like it just fills my head with stuff that doesn't need to be there, and it doesn't really benefit my life. I mean, obviously, if there's something major like COVID, then like we watch the news then. But most of the time, it just fills your head with negativity for no reason. So you can reduce the negative which you feel. Um, Meditation is brilliant for that as well. Like
Yeah,
recognizing
100%.
that like you're feeling like those negative emotions and not being swept away by them, like allowing yourself to feel them, not fighting them, but then allowing them to pass. You can like lower the negative, and then you can improve the positive with practices like a gratitude practice. When I do my journaling in the morning, I do
Oh, well done.
gratitude.
Yeah, because I noted that you do journaling. Yeah,
Yeah,
something I
exactly.
need to
That's
do.
part of the journaling thing. It's really, and just you just feel like really think about just stuff you can be grateful for.
Yeah, yeah,
And it can be anything. It could be like a cup of coffee. It could be the fact that it's sunny. You know, you had a nice cuddle with your dog. Like just like anything. Like, there's so many things to be grateful for as a thing.
absolutely.
And you just like really focus on them and feel them, and then that brings up your positive.
100%, 100%. No, I like that recommendation. I'm going to look at the book as well. I haven't seen that book before, but I like the concepts behind it. So, if you could do your business all over again, would you do anything different?
Um,
Maybe not put that grant application in.
yeah, exactly. That was a proper waste of time. Um, yeah, and there's always things you do different, right? Like, it's taken a while for us. I mean, we've been trying to hone the messaging and the product since, well, I mean, since 2019, but really since 2021. And it's come so far. Like now, what we go to market with is just so different to what we were going to market with in 2020. Um, so if I could just shortcut all that and go to market with the current messaging, although to be honest, the market probably wasn't ready for it back then, and
Yeah,
it's just taken that learning process to hone and refine it to this point. So I'd love to have shortcut all that, and wasted less money in the process, like feeding myself without sales. But I think it's a necessary learning curve to go through to get to where we are.
Yeah, yeah. And then we're coming to the end. Now, if I gave you £100 million to invest in business, what would you do with it?
Huh. Um, well, I mean, I'd massively grow David, do all the things that we want to do. But I think like what my goal for the whole David thing, if and when we sell, um, is to earn a significant amount of money to then like make sure all my friends and family are sorted. Paying off mortgages and buying my parents a house because they're financially not in a brilliant place. And once all that's done and all the basics are taken care of, like, I don't need much myself. Like, yeah, like a nice car and a lovely house and, to be able to go on snowboarding holidays, but that's kind of it. And um, once we're financially sorted, I'd like to focus on making a difference, like an impact, having an impact on the world. And a big part of that will be meeting entrepreneurs who are working in like climate tech space and um, on sustainability type projects and on psychological projects, like like they're helping communities, like just giving back basically. And I feel
Yeah,
like with that kind of money, you could really have a big impact.
really make a difference. Yeah.
So even if I didn't, like just giving my time, like having gone through the whole David process and hopefully sold for quite a lot of money, then just that experience and mentoring young founders, I think
Mm,
rewarding because you can have a big impact on what those guys do without needing to put in hours and hours, like an hour a week, and you can just like tap them in the right direction.
absolutely, can make a big difference.
Yeah.
And then, and then finally, really, what tips would you give people out there in business right now? What few tips could you leave them with about business?
Oh, well, I mean, it's small actions add up to big outcomes. It's become a bit of a cliche now with what's his jobs, James Clear and Atomic Habits and all that, but it's true.
Yeah,
Like they compound over time. Like anything. Like if you meditate once in the morning, that's never going to make any difference to your life. But if you do it every day for 3 months, then you'll start to realize it's making a
yeah, yeah,
difference. You do it
yeah,
for 3 years, and you're like, actually, this has made a huge difference. So, like with anything, it's just like no one gets these successes or has this big impact on their lives overnight. It's all about like showing up every day, doing the little things right
yeah,
consistently. Consistency is absolutely critical. When you do those things consistently over time, then the efforts compound and you
yeah.
get to where you want to be. But you've got to have
Compound
that
effect. Yeah,
persistence.
brilliant. No, really appreciate your time.
Thank
Think
you. And
learned a
sorry.
lot. Learned little nuggets about you as well. Little things you fed in as well. It was interesting
Yeah.
about your life as well. So, um, absolutely fantastic. So, just appreciate your time and thank you very much for doing the interview.
Thanks, sorry. I appreciate it.
Thank you.